Hello, and welcome to Happy Horror Time. My name's Tim Murdoch.
And my name is Matt Emmert. Today's special guest pretty much does it all in horror. He's the founder and owner of Convention All Stars LLC, which represents some of the biggest names in horror from franchises like Halloween, Scream, and The Walking Dead. He's not only responsible for getting Jamie Lee Curtis to make her one and only convention appearance in 2012, but he's been helping put on the huge Halloween anniversary convention since 2003. He's also the creator and host of Horror's Hallowed Grounds, a YouTube series where he visits filming locations from horror movies all over the world. And he co-hosts the Thing with Two Heads podcast with special effects and makeup artist Christopher Nelson. It's hard to believe this guy has a free moment to eat, let alone appear on our podcast, which is why we are so thankful to welcome to the show, Sean Clark.
Hey.
How's it going?
That was a great intro.
Oh, thanks. Was it accurate? I'm hoping we got everything right.
It was accurate. You missed that I cured cancer, but other than that, you got everything else.
Congratulations.
I mean, it might as well be next on your list. Like, seriously, and before we even jump into everything that you do, because there's a lot, I've heard that you mentioned that you were born in Anchorage, Alaska, but then came to SoCal when you were 6. So do you remember much about growing up in Alaska or all your early memories from Southern California?
Yeah, but I used to go back to Anchorage a lot because my grandparents lived there and I had other relatives there. They're all since passed. Yeah, I haven't been back to Anchorage. Oh boy, at least 20 years. I've kind of been meaning to get back, just curiosity, I guess, or just, you miss a place. But I think it would be kind of bittersweet because, I would always go and see my grandparents, and it would be weird to go there and not be able to go to that house, because someone else lives there now, and it's just so weird because as far back as I can remember, as my first memory is pretty much from inside that house. So,
oh wow, yeah,
and oddly enough, I sold that house. I'm the one who sold it.
Oh,
well, yeah, because this was years ago when I was still kind of in the mortgage business, and long story, but yeah, kind of a bummer.
Oh, so you mean after your grandparents passed away, you sold the house? Did you ever consider maybe keeping it, or just like as a memento, or you just weren't going back there enough?
Yeah, there was no reason to keep it. But here's the thing: it was like my grandma passed, and then my grandpa wasn't really able to take care of himself, so my dad had to move him out to California to basically be able to take care of him, and they needed the money for the sale of the house to be able to, obviously take care of his medical expenses and that sort of stuff. So
yeah. No,
plus the house, my grandpa built that house, and it was not to code, and it had all kinds of problems. So,
oh wow, he built that. That's amazing.
Yeah, so, he built it with his own hands. Yeah. Crazy.
Wow. You've also mentioned, which I thought was like cool and crazy at the same time, that you saw some big horror films at really young ages, like The Exorcist at 3 and Jaws at 5. So what kind of effect did seeing those
in Anchorage?
In Anchorage? What kind of effect did that have on you at a young age?
Exorcist, I was so young that I just remember flashes of it, I didn't know what the hell I was watching. I was, but Jaws at 5, I knew what I was watching, and it made me terrified of the water, and it freaked me out. But
Jaws was
I
PG.
loved it,
Jaws wasn't even rated R. It was PG, which is so crazy to think.
It is. Well, but so was Poltergeist. Yeah. Like back then, like ratings were way different back then.
Poltergeist was PG-13.
Oh, it did?
I think it was one of the first PG-13s, I think.
Oh, it was. I thought it was Red Dawn. Is that right?
That was the first one?
Yeah, I think. I mean, don't hold me to it.
Might have
been. Some early 80s trivia.
And what other horror films had an impact on you?
Like at a young age, and like when you were growing up.
Well, if you can see that guy right there, Trilogy of Terror, that screwed me up.
I love that movie.
That really screwed me up when I was a kid. But Halloween obviously had a massive impact. The Shining, you know.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because I've heard that your favorite horror movie is The Shining. What makes that one stand out for you among all the others?
It's just a masterpiece, man. I mean, it's one of those movies. You know, how many movies can you think of that are over 2 hours long that you could just watch anytime and not be bored of it? You know, it's just such a great atmospheric film. Yeah, that's just my favorite. And I remember seeing it Highway 39 drive-in in Orange County, California, with my parents. And I remember just being, you know, terrified. And you know, that's the thing, is like that feeling, that adrenaline rush of being scared is like that dragon I think us horror fans are always trying to chase, to get that feeling back. And unfortunately, it just doesn't really happen anymore. You know, you're at a different place when you're a kid and everything's new. That's why I think being nostalgic and going back and revisiting these films, you're trying to relive that moment, you know?
Yeah. You know, what The Shining did to me as a kid is when I would go to hotels and see long hallways, like it would scare the shit out of me.
Totally.
Just because of the long hallways. But it is funny that you say that. Like, I haven't even thought about, like, there's nothing we could watch today, and we watch horror movies all the time, I'm sure you do too, that is going to have that effect, because you're not a child anymore, so it's not like that impactful thing that sticks with you. I mean, Tim, you have tons of movies that because you saw it as a kid, now you love them. You know they're crap.
But it takes a lot to really, really scare me. Like, I guess a movie that scares me the most is, this is kind of, I'm sure you've seen it, Eye of the Stranger. Eye
of the Stranger?
Oh, Eyes of a Stranger?
With Jason Lee.
Yes.
That movie just has a very creepy opening to me.
It is so good, Sean. If you
hold on, let me see if I have that.
Yeah, it was Jennifer Jason Leigh's first film.
It has the girl from The Love Boat in it.
She plays a blind, deaf, and dumb girl, and her older sister is a TV reporter, and there's a serial killer.
Track down the killer.
I thought I might have owned it, but no, I don't. I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, it's 1981. It's pretty good.
So good. Really? So good. Yeah.
I'm going to write that down.
Yes. Eyes of a Stranger, Jennifer Jason Leigh's film debut. She played 12, right?
Well, I think she was 15.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what year?
I mean, the movie is 1981, but she played.
I was going to say she's playing 12 because she played, 17 at Fast Times the next year. Yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
I'm 15. Yeah. But so, in addition to The Shining, what other horror films would you say are in your top 5?
Well, you got to go with Jaws, Halloween. John Carpenter's The Thing is in there. Top 5.
Does Friday 13th make the cut?
No.
What? Oh, that's my favorite.
Friday the 13th doesn't even make the top 10. I mean, I love those movies. But I mean, as far as a great movie, it's a fun slasher, but it's not a great movie.
Which Friday the 13th is your favorite?
Part 2.
Okay.
Oh, got it. Wait, I want to get to, because this is very important. I've heard a lot of your interviews, but I've never heard your top 5 horror movies. I knew The Shining. I figured Halloween.
I'm just throwing out some.
Jaws.
Jaws, Shining, Halloween. The other 2 would probably be that I'm looking at my. I'm trying to think. That's tough to just say top 5. I mean, I can rattle off a bunch of my favorites. Like John Carpenter's The Thing would be one. Session 9 is another one I really love.
That is a good one.
I think it's underrated. Let me look here. Oh, the original Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, that's a good movie.
Yeah, no, that's great. So since you've done so much in horror, like we said, we're going to kind of divide this interview into different segments where we focus on each of your endeavors, starting with your extensive collection of props and masks from horror films. But first off, what I was wondering, when did you start collecting, and did it all kind of happen organically, or did you actually set out to build a collection?
It just happened organically. I mean, I've always had kind of a collector's mindset, which started, I think, mainly with records. As you can see some behind me, there's a whole other section over there just full of albums. When I was a kid, I just started buying records, and I was really into music. And when a lot of my friends were taking their allowances and partying, I was buying records. As far as toys and stuff, I didn't get really into the collector mindset on that stuff until I was probably like 18, 19, when, I don't know, that's when I think I started to like try to like keep the packaging and everything, you know, and but my first prop I bought, I think the first prop I bought was in like 1990, I think, was from Darkman. It was Liam Neeson's skin mask that I got in an auction at a Fangoria convention. I still have it.
That is awesome. I heard you mention that you own the world's biggest screen use collection of Michael Myers masks, which is pretty amazing to me, especially because the Halloween franchise is my favorite. Like, I have a story with why Halloween is so important to me, but I wanted to know, how did you acquire all those masks, and does it cover every Halloween movie, not counting Season of the Witch, of course?
Well, I mean, just years of collecting, obviously, and knowing certain people and spending way too much money, obviously, is another factor. You know, I mean, it's funny. I guess it's like a bold statement to say that I have the world's biggest Halloween screen used mask collection, but I can't imagine anybody has more than me at this point, because, you know, there's not that many out there. And I mean, as far as part 1 and 2 are concerned, there's only one known mask to exist. And it's rotting. And some guy has it in his collection. So from part 3, I have a screen used pumpkin. Part 5, I have a screen used Myers. Part 6, I have a screen used Myers. H2O, I have a production made Stan Winston that wasn't on screen. I have a screen used, the screen used part 6 mask that was in H2O. That's the only one that was used in H2O. I have a production made Resurrection mask that wasn't used on screen, but then I also have a screen used Resurrection mask, one of the burned ones. And then we get into the Rob Zombie ones. I have from the first Rob Zombie film 3, I have the clean one, I have the rotted one, and I have the orange Asylum mask. And then from Rob Zombie's part 2, I have the last mask he wears when he stabs Malcolm McDowell at the end. I have that mask.
Is that like in pieces? Because that's all.
No, I mean, it you know, it's obviously has all the rips and everything, but it's all in one piece. And then from the new 3 films, the last trilogy, Chris Nelson made me a 2018 Anna Kills mask from the movie molds. You know, he's technically, you'd say they're production made because he made them, you know, from all the molds. But they weren't used in the film. I do have a screen used cat mask from Ends that Andy Matichek wore. I have a production made flashback mask that was supposed to be an Ends, and that scene got cut. And then I do have a screen used Ends mask.
Oh my God.
And which one's your favorite?
Yeah, which is your favorite Michael Myers mask from which movie?
That's tough, man. That's really tough. I mean, if you were to say which my favorite mask, it'd be part 1, of course.
Yeah,
but if you're saying what's my favorite of the ones I own, I don't know. That's there's things I like about. I really do like the Wayne Toth Rob Zombie ones. Something about that mask, especially like the part 2 one. It's just really cool. But I really love the Ends mask. There's so much detail when you look at it up close. Chris did so much detail, and the one I own was used at the end of the film. That was pulled off of Corey, and also worn by James Hugh Courtney in a scene. And it's also the one laying on Laurie's desk at the end of the film. So.
It's nuts. I'm geeking out because I just can't believe that. That's amazing.
So, I mean, if you count all those masks I just named, I think it'd be hard pressed to find somebody who has more.
Yeah, I think you win.
I think you win. Also, I also heard that you own one of only 4 of the toy clowns that were made for Poltergeist. So how did you end up getting that prop? Or is it all just like finding the right person and auctions and stuff?
Well, I mean, I've had that for 20 years. So I bought that back before props had this crazy boom. Like right now, you can't. Good luck finding a deal on anything. It's everything props wise goes for crazy money now, and every production knows these things are going to be worth money, so they're protecting them like crazy. But the clown, excuse me, that was an eBay auction. Believe it or not, my friend called me up. My buddy Darren called me up and he goes, "Dude, you are not going to believe what's on eBay right now." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "One of the original Poltergeist clowns." I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Look it up. It just says Poltergeist clown." Like, that's how it was listed. Poltergeist clown. Didn't say screen use, didn't say prop, didn't say nothing. I went to it, saw it. Holy shit, it's the real deal. It was being sold by the son of the woman who made them for the film. And I got it for like $3,500.
That's fantastic.
I can't, I hope that guy must be kicking himself for selling them at this point.
100%.
Oh my God.
And he gave me with it a letter on Poltergeist letterhead with the envelope, Poltergeist envelope, from producer Frank Marshall, thanking his mother for making them for the film. Like,
oh my God, why is he doing this stuff? I hope he had wow, that is
I love
crazy.
Poltergeist.
I'm just thinking, so if they're like, do you have all of your props in like one like collection room in your house, or how do you keep them? Are they in a safe? I mean,
they're here and there.
Yeah, I was going
to tell you that.
No, oh yeah, I'm not trying to expose. No, sorry, I'm not trying to ask. I'd show up at your front door. No, I just mean because, like, oh my God, I would want to protect them with everything that I am, like that kind of stuff.
I mean, believe me, I've done everything possible to ensure their security.
That's good.
In addition to that, to the Michael Myers mask and the Poltergeist clown, what other like props are you like most proud of, or like that you're like when someone comes to your house is like, "Hey, I'm going to show this off because it's awesome." Something from Dr. Giggles.
100% the Scrubs. No.
One thing people seem to really get excited about, which I really like, is I have Ajax vest from the Warriors, James Remar's vest. And also his belt and belt buckle, which I got directly from him. That's one of my favorites. I have one of Ace Frehley's vests from Kiss Love Gun tour, which is pretty cool. I just recently acquired one of Peter Criss's vests from Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, the movie. That's pretty nice. People seem to really get a kick out of the resonator from Beyond when they come in, because it's so big. They're like, "What the hell is that?" Like, if either they know what it is immediately, or they're, "What is that?"
Of course, that's awesome. That's a cool prop to have.
I'm already just dazzled by the clown.
Well, I mean, and I'm dazzled by the Michael Myers mask. I can't even believe that many, and the fact that you can name every single version that you've had. But like, it's just unbelievable. So moving on to Convention All Stars LLC, I read that you established this company in 2005, but I heard you mention that the first show you ever booked talent for was the Halloween 25th anniversary convention in 2003. So can you take us through, like, how did you first get involved in the H25 convention, and how did that lead to starting your own company?
Well, I think I'm trying to remember exactly how it went down, but I think I was reached out to by a guy who was putting on the convention, or attempting to put on the convention. I think he reached out to me as a potential vendor, because at the time I was pretty well known for making Myers masks, because I had a mask company, and I was pretty much like the only guy really doing screen accurate Myers masks. I kind of sort of kicked off that whole underground scene of Myers mask makers. And when he approached me about it, I said, wait a second, that sounds very interesting. How could I get more involved? And so I said, let's go to lunch and talk about this. So he had another partner, and the three of us met at an Islands for lunch.
Great choice.
I love it. The Yaki tacos. Great.
And I'm more of the, what's the one I like is the something bird sandwich.
Oh,
shorebird.
Yes, the shorebird.
Yeah.
Because my boyfriend always gets the blue nami burger with the blue cheese crumble. I can't believe we're talking about fucking islands.
Blue nami.
Anyway, okay, go on.
That sounds terrible. I hate blue cheese. But so in that meeting, I was just like, throwing 1,000 ideas at him, and like, I'd like to. Sorry, I'm getting a text.
Like, I just got an offer on the Poltergeist clown. That's good.
No, sorry. Name drop. It was Devin Sawa texted me.
Oh, that's
anyway.
awesome. We talked to him on the show. He's awesome. He's great.
Yeah, he's awesome. Anyway, yeah, so I just said, look, let me help you put this thing on. And they brought me in as a partner. So it was the three of us, and the three of us put on the event together. And that's how I got involved.
And then how did that lead to, because then obviously you're working at the convention, but how did that lead to starting a personal appearance representation company?
Well, I think one of my main tasks was finding talent for the show. So I was figuring out ways to reach out to people and see if they wanted to do this convention, not as a agent, but as a promoter. So I wasn't making a percentage. I was just, here, come, would you like to do my show? So that's how I learned the ins and outs of that. And then shortly after that, I had tried to help one of these actors do I talked him into doing a convention locally, just give it a try. And he liked it. And he said, hey, I'd like to do more of these. Do you know anybody, how I can get in? I said, well, I know this guy that's like an agent for conventions, as I knew one guy that was doing it. And so I approached him and said, are you interested in this person? And they said, no, pass. And I go, really? And they said, yeah. So I went back to this person and said, hey, the guy said, not interested. He said, pass. And he goes, fuck that guy. Why don't you manage me? And then I was, I guess I could.
What if you had said pass?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, if it wasn't for the arrogance of this other person, I probably wouldn't have never gotten in this business. So I just kind of thought about it. Okay. So I started looking into it and figuring out what, how it all worked, with other shows. And basically when I found out that they would fly you in, they'd put you up, and you get to go to the convention for free. As a fan, I'm like, I'm in, right? So I started thinking, well, who else could I get to do this? So I had all these Halloween people's numbers from doing the convention. So I just started calling them and saying, hey, you want to do more of these? And so right off the bat, I had like 50 Halloween clients, and I was like the Halloween guy.
Oh my God.
And as I started to do more and plugging them in and here and there, and I started to make a little money, and I was like, wait a second, this is kind of cool. I was doing it for fun and the hobby, and now I'm like, this is happening. And then it just turned into this whole referral thing where certain actors were telling me, oh, you should talk to my friend, blah, blah, blah. And they just kept going up and up and up, and bigger names and bigger names. And there was like two milestones in my career that just like propelled me, and one was, believe it or not, Stacey Nelkin from Halloween 3.
Yeah.
One day says to me, who would do good, really good at these conventions is my friend. I go, well, who's your friend? And she said, Linda Hamilton. And I went, yeah. And she goes, I'll introduce you. And as soon as I got Linda on board, suddenly Comic-Cons started calling me that I'd never had. I'd only done horror conventions. So all these doors started opening, you know. And that was kind of the thing that made me legit. Yeah. And then the next thing was I was working. I had never even seen this movie, but this guy approached me and said, hey, I've got these 3 actors from this film. It's got this big cult following. I can't get them in anywhere. You know, would you want to see if you could do anything for them? And I okay, what's it called? And he says, it's called the Boondock Saints. I'm like, okay, I've never heard of it. But so I start working with these guys and they're doing okay. Right. You know, it's David Delarocco, Sean Patrick Flannery, and Norman Reedus. Oh, and so we're at this convention. I remember I was sitting with Norman at a convention. We had no line. Nobody's in front of us. And we're just kind of sitting there waiting for the day to end because it's just a dead show. And he says to me, oh, hey, I just got this new TV show. It's based on a horror comic. It's called The Walking Dead. Do you think it might be good for these things? And I'm like, maybe, you know. Next thing you know, skyrocket, you know. And that just changed my life. I mean, legitimately Norman Reedus changed my life. Wow. And then he introduced me to John Bernthal and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and, you know, doors just keep opening. It's just crazy, man. I mean, I didn't set out to do this. This is all just happy accidents, you know. I mean, granted, I'm good at what I do, you know, but dumb luck had a lot to play in this, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, again, like you said, dumb luck can only take you so far. I mean, obviously, if these people have stuck with you and recommend you, it's from your work ethic, and that's just that's amazing. Like, as a horror fan, I totally get like the appeal of being like, oh, I can go to conventions for free, and then you make money on top of that. It's like doing what that's like literally when they, you know, when you see those ads on social media, it's like, get paid to watch horror movies. And every time I'm like, okay, of course I never get picked. But anyway, so, you know, our listeners have heard me say this a million times, and I told you this, the original Halloween, it's been my favorite film since I was 11. And I've been lucky enough to have like a few random run-ins with Jamie Lee Curtis throughout my life. But one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't go to Indianapolis in 2012 for her one and only convention appearance. And I was just wondering, can you tell us, how did that all come together? Like, what made her decide to finally do a convention at that point in time?
Again, just dumb luck. I mean, complete dumb luck. I mean, I went to some of her book signings and tried to talk to her about it, got blown off. Like, they passed me off to her publicist, who is very anti this stuff. It's the same person to this day that was back then. And, you know, they gave me the runaround. It was lip service. There was, you know, and I'm just like, okay, well, you know, that's never going to happen. You know, that's the ultimate goal. Get Jamie Lee Curtis to a convention. Yeah. And one day my phone rings and I answer it and I'm like, hello. And the person on the other line goes, Sean? I go, yes. Jamie Lee Curtis. And immediately,
sounds like her.
Immediately I knew it was her. Like the voice, right? And I go, yeah, hey, what's happening? You know,
you're like, how's it going?
Yeah, how you doing? And she goes, so I'm doing this thing for my charity, and I'm trying to get these Michael Myers masks signed by all the people from the first film, and I'm trying to track them down. And every time I talk to somebody, they say the guy you need to talk to is Sean Clark. And I just said, fuck it, I'm going to call this guy. And I go, okay.
That's Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah. So she said, yeah, Tommy Lee Wallace gave me your number. And, you know, can you help me put me in contact with these people? And I said, absolutely. No problem. And she tells me what she wants to do. And she goes, she's going to 5 Michael Myers masks, have them all autograph it, and then auction it off for the Children's Hospital Los Angeles. And she said, she goes, let me ask you a question. She goes, yeah, Tommy told me what you do. And honest opinion, do you think the best way for me to raise the most money selling these masks is to do it, like on an eBay kind of thing, or at one of these fan conventions that you do? Right. And I took a deep breath, and I'm a brutally honest person. I pride myself on my honesty, and a lot of times it pays off. And this time it did. And I said, Jamie, as much as I would love to see you do a convention, I said, my honest opinion is you'd have a better chance of making more money on an online auction, because, and she goes, well, why is that? And I said, well, because at a convention, you're dealing with maybe 10,000 people that are there versus the entire world being able to bid on it, And she goes, She goes, I appreciate your honesty. And I go, yeah. And she goes, so tell me more about these conventions. And it literally just, we went into that conversation. She said, let's do one. And I'm like, what? She goes, you tell me which one you think's the best to do, and we'll do it one time only. And we're going to give 100% of the proceeds to the Children's Hospital Los Angeles. And I'm just like, okay. I said, this is what I think we should do. I said, I can pick out like the top 5 conventions and, and run them by you. And she goes, we'll do this. She goes, you pick out the top 5 and you tell each of those 5 conventions to give me their best pitch, why I should do their show. Wow. And I said, which was a relief in a way, because any show I didn't pick was going to be pissed at me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even though I think some of them still think I chose the show, I didn't. I literally went to each promoter and told them, and there was 4 shows I picked. One person of the 4 said, meh, I'm for whatever reason said, nah, I'm not going to bother. Like,
what?
That's bizarre.
That is, we don't want to have the biggest convention in history. We'll pass.
Some promoters are that arrogant, like, oh, she doesn't want to do my show, I have to make the pitch for, whatever. So that promoter passed, and the other 4 gave me their pitch. And one show out of the 4 did something that none of the others did. And what it was they said, we will also donate 50% of everything we make to the charity as well.
Wow.
Yeah, that is that.
And when she heard that, she said, done. That's it. That's the one.
Just going to say that is signed, sealed, delivered,
and
done.
All
and that was
past co-stars also joined in on that particular convention.
Yeah. What ended up happening then, so she picked Horror Hound Weekend, which was in Indianapolis at the time. And she said, well, what we should do is let's make it, she goes, I want it to be a celebration of my horror career. So she goes, the only people I want there, because we were building the event around her. Yeah. So she said, the only people I want there are people that I starred with in those horror films. So, I remember like Danielle Harris, was like, I've got to do this convention. And I said, you can't, you weren't in one of her movies. Oh, and she was pissed, Yeah. And I said, I'm sorry, these are the rules. You have to have been one of her co-stars. She wants all the guests to be people she worked with. So we had people from Terror Train, The Fog, all the Halloween films.
Prom night.
Prom night. Yeah.
How about Mother's Boys? You get anyone from that one?
We did not have anybody from Mother's Boys or Road Games. But, it was cool, man. It was really cool. Like having all these, it was like a high school reunion for her,
I just like, again, one of the biggest regrets is that because I remember seeing the advertisements for it, and I was just, living in Southern California. I was like, oh, I don't know if I can make it. And for some reason it didn't click, that even though it kept saying one and only convention, I just didn't, I don't know. Maybe because there wasn't a new movie at the time. Anyway, big regret.
Well, I mean, anything's possible. I mean, after Resurrection, there was a trilogy. So,
well, what I'm wondering is,
Well,
do you think Jamie Lee Curtis would ever do another convention? Because before H45, I remember there was like a rumor going around that she might attend with like Kyle Richards and Andy Matichak. Do you think there's ever a chance she'd do another one?
you never say never, but I think the chances are getting slimmer and slimmer. Here's what happened. Right after Kills came out, she contacted me and said, you know what? I want to do one more.
Oh.
And I said, well, because I told her when she said, we want to promote this as the one and only, I said, you sure you want to do that? I go, because what if you enjoy it? She goes, I won't. And she surprisingly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I think she had a little buyer's remorse, like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that, because she really pushed the one and only. But it had been over 10 years, right? At that point, close to 10 years, something like that. And she said to me, well, Sean, I said I would never play Laurie Strode again too, and here I am, doing it again. And she said, but she goes, so I feel like I owe it to the new fans of the new trilogy to get their chance to meet me. So she said, she goes, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to hang up my bell bottoms for good. I remember that's exactly what she said. And I go, okay. So we were planning, and she said, I wanted to go back to Horror Hound. They were great. So 'cause she liked how they did everything. I said, fine. So we were planning to have her, I think it was supposed to be September 2020 we hadn't announced it yet. And then what happened?
Yeah.
COVID. So it shut everything down. And then when we were gearing up for the 45th, it was looking good. And then something else happened. The Oscar.
Oh.
That changes a lot. And there's a lot of stuff that went on behind the scenes, but in a nutshell, she was supposed to show up and do the Q&A with John Carpenter. It was going to be a surprise. And because it went from her actually being a guest to her being a surprise to her not coming at all. Literally found out the day before the convention she's not coming.
Oh.
And I don't want to get into the whys and everything, let me just say there was somebody else behind the scenes pushing her not to.
well,
but it is what it is.
It will be the 50th anniversary in 2028.
Is there anything big planned for that? Will you still be working on putting the conventions together, you think, and for the 50th?
Well, I have said numerous times that if I make it to the 50th, that I'm tapping out after that one. Like that's
hanging your bell bottoms up.
Matt, we got to take over the 100.
Well, it's how many people are going to still be alive even at the. I mean, we just lost Cyphers. Who knows who else? Will she show up? I don't know. She just won an Emmy now.
I know, but just
stop winning these awards.
Or can you get that person who shall remain nameless out of her ear so that she'll return to the conventions? It's just, yeah. I mean, the thing about it is it's such a win-win, I feel like, for both sides, because the fans get Jamie Lee Curtis and she raises so much money for her charity. So it's like such a win-win. But anyway, yeah. I'm just putting that into the universe because I'm so regretful about 2012. But well, anyway, moving on to Horror's Hallowed Grounds, your YouTube series where you visit filming locations from classic horror films. How did that all get started?
Well, that was something that I've been doing as a hobby since like 1994. Just going to filming locations, and 93 actually was where I really got the bug. And I started doing little edits myself on VHS with like a flying erase head VCR system, and was cutting in the movie scenes and stuff like that. And I was a journalist. I wrote for a couple websites early on, like this is from like 2000, I think from like 2002 to like 2006. I was a journalist, like with the Horror Channel, which became DreadCentral.com, and then a little bit with Bloody Disgusting. And so early on, I pitched this idea of an article, an online article with photos, comparison photos, called Horrors Hallowed Grounds. And so I would write the articles, tell the story of where things were, blah, blah, blah. And it was a written thing. So I always envisioned it as a show. Now, after 25 Years of Terror, the convention, from that, we shot the documentary, 25 Years of Terror, for Anchor Bay. That whole thing was just a nightmare, because basically the two guys I'd partnered with on the convention decided I no longer needed to be involved in the documentary after we'd already started it. And they made a deal with Anchor Bay without even telling me. I sued them. I won. Anyway, there's a reason my name doesn't appear on the packaging or in the official credits. It had to do with the suit, but I ultimately won. Ended up, getting a percentage of all sales, and anyway, the Malika Cod basically said, "Hey, look, we're paying this guy." He knew me at this point. We weren't super tight, but we are now. But he said, we're paying this guy, so let's use him. So they had me working on the documentary, even though the other guys were not happy about it. It was really one of the two who was the instigator. The other person eventually turned on the other guy, and it's.
Is this Real Housewives of the horror convention?
That's cutthroat.
Yeah, it is. And so anyway, I ended up continuing on and doing the 30th, 35th on my own. Got rid of them, but anyway. So when we were working on 25 Years of Terror, I was in Malika Cod's office one day, and he was saying, "Hey, man, do you have any other ideas for bonus features? Because we want to pack this package. We need more content, And I said, well, there's this thing I do online that's pretty popular, and I've been thinking about doing it as a show, and I pitched him the idea of it. And he said, that sounds great. Go do that. And I go, okay. And he said, you got 2 weeks. I need a finished product in 2 weeks. And I'm like, shit. So I called PJ Souls, asked her if she would do it with me, and she agreed. She was, and
he said totally. And then she did.
She said totally. And I had been doing I was kind of the on-camera personality for the Horror Channel, which never really took off. So I had these camera guys that were already working with me because we were going to conventions and doing interviews and doing shit like that. And I said, hey, you guys want to come do this? And they're like, let's do it. So Andrew Cash and Buzz Wallach, we all went out, and actually Buzz wasn't in it at the first episode. He came in on the second, but Andrew was there. I got another guy named John Condit and a couple other guys, and we went out, we banged out the episode and got it put on it was a bonus feature on the documentary 25 Years of Terror. That's how it started. And
yeah,
people loved it, and it took off from there. It was one of those things I really didn't pursue, but it kept coming back. Like, people kept going, hey, can you do another one of those for this thing? And I'd be like, okay. And then I finally just got into it and just kept going,
I think I was introduced to you. I don't know which Hollow Ground it was, but like Robert Russler was in it, and that was very.
He's in a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Well, I think he's in the I think he's in the one, the Halloween one.
Was he in Halloween?
Like, didn't he come up and
he's in 2 and 3?
Oh, got it. Oh, yes, it was Halloween 2. Yeah,
I can remember.
So
his first appearance was in the Elm Street episode.
That's right.
So we've watched a lot of the episodes, but one of your most recent ones from the filming locations of Halloween H2O it was just so well done. Like, it felt like when we were watching, it felt like you literally took the viewers like through almost every major scene in the film. And by the way, I had no idea that the street in the opening scene with the nurse was a cul-de-sac, like that they're coming in from the dead end of a cul-de-sac. It's hilarious. Anyway, but my question is, from researching the locations to filming everything to editing in clips from the actual movie, how long does it usually take to make one of these videos?
A long time. I mean, I'm a perfectionist too, so that's one thing that's really a blessing and a curse. I mean, people say to me all the time, "Hey, look, you know, I think you're the best at this, and I love your videos the most because you're so detailed, and you take the time and this and that." And you know, and I say to them, "Look, if you're comparing me to a guy like Adam the Woo or Scott on Tape or, you know, even Grim Life, you know, these guys do this for a living. These guys are constantly putting out content almost daily sometimes, right?
Yeah, it's impressive.
But that's what they do for a living. Yeah. That's full-time job. So they're constantly churning and burning because that's how they get paid. Yeah. Well, this is a hobby for me. So I do it when I have the free time. And for me, the finished product is, you know, I have to be excited about it. I need to sit down and watch it and go, okay, is this exactly what I wanted it to be? You know? So sometimes I'll take a couple years to make an episode, you know what I mean? And, you know, honestly, H2O was probably the fastest episode I ever did in terms of turning it around and then the reason was because I did the house with Scott.
Yeah.
He wanted to do Scream 3. So we made an agreement that we drop our episodes on the same day. So I was feeling all this pressure, like I got to get this done because he's not going to sit on this as long as I am. He's a guy who actually, he does sit on things too. But he does churn and burn a lot more. But, oddly enough, I got it done before him and put the fire under his ass to get his out. He was a day late. Yeah, so yeah, this will probably interest you guys. I'm leaving for Salt Lake City in the morning, for a convention. And while I'm there, I'm going to film, part of a new episode, which is going to be all the Halloween locations I missed.
Oh,
so if you go to Halloween 1 through 6, I missed spots. And now I'm going to get all of them in one episode.
We were looking up because I was like, wait, so nothing in 1 and 2 would be in Utah. But then I knew 6 was filmed there, but I didn't know 4 and 5 were also, correct?
Well, 4, 5, and 6 were all in Salt Lake City. But 1, 2, 3, I've already started shooting some of the stuff I missed from those episodes. Now, the thing that's interesting is, like, for 1 through 6, all of them I was rushed. On every one of those episodes, I was rushed. Now, normally, like, I would sit on something and wait until I can find that last spot, right? Like H2O, I think I found everything. So H2O, I'm good. It's complete. I don't think I can find anything else. No. When I did part 1, like I said, I had 2 weeks, you know? And then when part 2 and 3 came about, Michael Felsher from Red Shirt Pictures calls me up one day and says, "Hey, I'm working with this new company called Scream Factory, and, you know, I'm doing Halloween 2 and 3. Would you be interested in doing a Horrors Hallowed Grounds like you did for part 1? Would you be up for doing a part 2 and 3 episode?" I'm like, hell yeah. Like, I got super excited, right? Like, yes. And it's like, well, we need it like in, you know, we've got like 2 months. So I did everything I could to try to find everything and get it done in time. Same thing happened with 4 through 6 when we were working on the box set. You know, that was the most insane job I've ever had in my life. Because I was not only producing the actual documentaries, you know, doing the interviews and all that stuff, I was also producing Horrors Hallowed Grounds episodes. I did audio commentaries, you know. I was being pulled in so many directions, and we had such a short turnaround time, it's insane what we pulled off for that. And if you see right there, I have a Saturn Award for it. That's
awesome.
That's for the box set.
Congrats.
We did a great job. So, but again, I was on a time crunch, so I found everything I could. And it's funny is like looking back at it, I've been researching it all day today, actually, because I'm so last minute. And I'm I'm looking through the episode going, oh shit, I did miss that. I missed that too. All right. So, I mean, there, all those movies from 1 to 6, I missed something, so I'm going back and getting all those spots that locations I missed.
So can I ask like a nerdy technical question on these videos?
Yeah.
Because something I've always wanted. Okay, so when I was watching some of your videos, there's like when you visited the Exorcist, Carrie, and Black Christmas, the movie clips that you included had audio, but in your videos for like the Lost Boys and H2O, the clips were silent. Is that something that depends on like what rights you can get, or what determines whether you can add audio from the actual movie?
It's tough because when I was doing them for Scream Factory, I could get away with anything. Like for Scream Factory, I'm using clips, I'm using music, I'm using audio, I'm using everything because we have the rights.
Yeah. For
YouTube, and I'm making brand new episodes, you can get flagged like that. I could still get flagged today. Like, an episode I've had up for 4 years could get flagged tomorrow. It happens. So that's the risk of using film clips. Like if you look at like Adam the Woo, for example, when he does a filming location, he won't use any clips. He'll literally print out like a Kinko's color copy of a screen grab and hold it up to the camera and say, here's the, because he told me, I just do not want to deal with copyright stuff, Yeah. So it depends. I mean, you have no idea how many times I've uploaded an episode and, you'll upload it private and I'll let it sit for a couple weeks and see if anything happens. And sometimes they immediately get flagged. Sometimes it takes a couple weeks. I've had to pull stuff down and re-edit it 20 times.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like a nightmare.
It is. I mean, because a lot of the art of what I do is watching that seamless flow from the film to the what I shot. And I try to make that as seamless as possible. And if you can't show that, it's like you lose so much, I'm shocked that I was able to get away with what I did with The Exorcist and Lost Boys because Warner Brothers is notorious for copyright
I've heard
stuff.
that.
And we just watched Slaughter High and heard the music, but we love it.
Slaughter, and that's another thing. You never know. Like you think, like a movie like Slaughter High, you think to yourself, there's not going to be an issue, and there wasn't at all. I pushed the envelope and nothing happened. But every once in a while, you'll take a movie like Slaughter High and think, it's such a random, not popular film. And those are the ones they go harder after because the people that own it, that might be the only thing they own. Yeah. So they're really hardcore about it,
And we noticed like during you filming of Slaughter High, like you couldn't get into the high school. What would you say was the hardest filming location that you couldn't get into? Or I don't know, maybe you were like, because you were really funny. You were saying like, oh, I should give the guards some money. Or you said something really funny.
I offered them money.
Yeah, like you offered them money.
I paid off those construction guys, gave them 100 pounds.
Oh my
wow.
God. Yeah. What are some of like the most difficult locations that you've had to get
like
into?
if you had to like crawl under a fence or something like, Mission Impossible.
I could tell you one that's kind of funny. So there was the docks from Dawn of the Dead, the remake, the end scene at the docks. That's like a private dock. Like it's a gated thing. And, so Scott on tape and I were there. And I was like, fuck, it's right there. It's like, you can almost see it, we got to get in there. And I'm like thinking, how are we going to do this? I'm trying to figure out a way to I'm even thinking, can I get a boat and come around and just pull up to the, I'm thinking all these things I could do. And we're standing there and a truck pulls up. Guy puts in the code, the gate opens and he drives in. And I just go, let's go. And Scott's like, you serious? I'm like, let's go. So we just walk in, the gate shuts behind us. we film everything. We couldn't get out.
Oh my gosh, what did you do? You're like, oh my gosh, the gate accidentally closed on us. We have to-
I figured there was some sort of automatic thing. If a car pulled up, it would open. Or I'm trying everything. We can't get out. Fortunately, there was a gap underneath the gate, like this much.
Oh.
We had to shimmy on the ground and shimmy under it to get out.
And you and Scott are like very tall guys. I mean, you're like that couldn't have been easy.
You know, by the way, how did you and Scott, by the way, Scott, who does Scott on tape, we love Scott. We're friends with Scott. We actually were lucky enough we joined him on a couple filming videos when he came to LA, like he did, you know, the basics like Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street.
Charmed House.
We jumped in. I think we also went to the People Under the Stairs with him, right? Yeah. Anyway, he's great. How did you guys meet? Because I know you've collaborated a lot.
You know what? I know we met through YouTube. I want to say maybe one of his live streams popped up and I commented something like, I was just watching it because I was always curious, like other guys that are doing what I'm doing. You know, I kind of had to spy on them and say, are they going to do this? You start to get very protective. Like, I want to make sure I'm the first guy to do this, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I think I was just watching one of his live streams and something got commented on and I posted in the live chat something like, oh, maybe it was something like, oh, what is this, blah, blah, blah. And I knew the answer and I put it on there. And I think he recognized my name and he goes, oh, yeah, you know, Malfunction. Yeah, I've seen your videos and blah, blah. And he said something like that. And through that, we ended up speaking. And I can't remember. Honestly, I have such a terrible memory. I can't remember where we first met. Maybe I think he came to a convention I was at. And that's where we first met. You know, that's how I've met most of these people. Like I can't remember
at a convention or a filming location.
Yeah. Adam the Woo. I met him at a convention because he came up to me. I was sitting at a table with a celebrity working, and he came up and he starts talking to me about, hey, your videos, blah blah blah, and I didn't know who he was, but I kept hearing his name. People kept saying, oh, like, you know, your videos are like Adam the Woo's. And I'm like, who the fuck is Adam the Woo? I don't know, you know. And I was getting frustrated because I'd been doing this shit since like 1994. And Adam started on YouTube in like 2010. But people started telling me I was ripping him off. I'm like, what the hell? What? You know, and Adam, you know, he's a very honest guy. And he's like, no, dude, you're the OG. Like, you've been doing this way longer than me and blah, blah. But he was smarter to get on YouTube first. I didn't take YouTube serious. I was trying to get Horror's Hallowed Grounds picked up as a series, like on Travel Channel or something. So I was being very protective. I didn't just want to put it out there for free.
Yeah.
Not knowing I should have, you know.
So what filming locations have you not visited yet that you'd really like to cover?
I mean, I've been almost everywhere. I mean, there's a couple, you know, obvious ones that I've just never gotten around to. I've never been to Martha's Vineyard, so I've never been to the Jaws locations. But I also don't have the motivation because everybody's been there and they've been well covered. So it's like, you know, do I want to, like when I did my Exorcist location, I was like, everybody's been to those stairs by now, you know, but I'm like, can I bring something to it that people don't know? Can I find those spots nobody has found? I have to have something like that pulls me in, like, okay, I need to, I can do it better. You know what I mean? I've seen the other guys. I can do this more thorough, you know?
So did you do the spider walk down those stairs?
Oh, that was a set. So no. Oh, you mean spider walk down the
Could you imagine? Oh my god!
the outside stairs. The inside stairs where the spider walk happened.
It's funny that you say that because it's very true to even what we do. Like we do a horror podcast. We talk to people involved in horror. Tons of people do that. Tons of people have talked to a lot of people we've talked to. So we always try to like either whether it's find an angle in or a question that's a little bit different or get more info on a certain topic that a person hasn't said, just so it's a little bit different, because it's a very saturated. So moving on to, if there weren't enough on your plate already, you also started a podcast in 2020 called The Thing with Two Heads with Christopher Nelson. And just so listeners know, Christopher Nelson, makeup effects artist, and he actually helped create the Michael Myers mask that was used in the Blumhouse trilogy. So how did you, I mean, especially being as busy as you are, how did you guys come up with the idea to do a podcast?
It's funny. I've known Chris for a long time, but we never really talked. Like, he's one of those guys, we knew each other, but we'd see each other and be, oh, hey, dude, hey, like that. And we'd never really talk. And we both thought the other one hated each other. Like, oh, I'd see him and go, that guy thinks I'm an asshole. And he'd look at me and go, that guy thinks I'm an asshole. And we never would talk, right? So when the Halloween 2018 happened, and I'm so tied in with that franchise and everything, I met Chris and we hit it off and like immediately became like super close friends. And then when the pandemic happened, we're just sitting around doing nothing, and that's when I decided, because I'd thought about for years, like, oh, I want to take all this content, all this content that I had, all these episodes of Horror's Hallowed Grounds, all this stuff, and I want to put them on you. I want to start a channel and put it up. And that was, having nothing to do during COVID motivated me to do that. So, and that's when I also found out that all my episodes were pretty much on YouTube, bootleg versions, and I had to get all those taken down. And, some had close to 1 million views. Like my Elm Street episode had close to 1 million views. And I'm just like, what the hell? I didn't know. Because people would come up to me at conventions and they go, dude, I love your YouTube channel. And I'd be like, I don't have a YouTube channel. Oh, that thing where you go to when you go to the filming locations. I'm like, oh yeah, at Horror's Hallowed Grounds, it's on the Blu-ray or whatever. I saw it on YouTube. And I'd be like, I don't have to tell you. So, but, so I started doing that. And one day Chris and I were just on the phone bullshitting. He goes, dude, we should start a podcast. And I've always wanted to do a podcast, like for a long time. Like I love talking about horror, but I didn't want to do it by myself. You need somebody to bounce things off of.
Exactly.
And, yeah. And so I'm like, I got to find the right person. And I never thought I had the right person, like that I would think I should do a podcast with this guy. Right. And when Chris brought it up, I was like, dude, this is perfect. Because that's all we do is talk about horror, and he's funny and he's sarcastic and I was just thinking I would never in a million years ask him to do the podcast with me, because I would feel that would be just like, because also when you have some notoriety, he's an Academy Award winner, he may be thinking like, oh, you're only asking me because I'm famous, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Totally.
So I was like, I would never, also because we're friends, I would never cross that line, sort of, as I'm one of those guys that I feel very uncomfortable asking people for stuff.
Oh, I second that.
For example, I have several friends who are big rock stars, and I knew them before they were rock stars. And now that they're rock stars, even though I could call them up and say, hey, can you put me on the list for the show? They would do it like that, but I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the, hey, bro, you put me on the, I feel weird doing it, even though they're my friends, I feel weird.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so he said, he just threw it out there, and I was like, bingo. Yes, let's do this. So we started doing it, And then when the world started to reopen, we realized how busy we were. So we don't do it that often, you know?
My favorite episode is when you talked to Tom Holland and before he came on, you guys were saying, this is my get off the lawn moment. Is there a certain episode that you are particularly proud of or recommend people listen to?
I don't know. You know, it's one of those things that after we do them, they kind of go out of my mind.
I can tell you about one that I thought was really informative, and just you had like two parts to it. It was the life of a booking agent, and it's really it's just really educational because again, I didn't know what went into these conventions, and what I thought was really cool about it is that you and these other agents, you're all talking about what you do. But what I was most impressed by is that you're also loyal to each other. It's not like you're stealing each other's clients. It was just really nice to hear the camaraderie between all of you and just the different experiences you've had.
And that's rare. I mean, because it's such a cutthroat business.
I think you went through that before, so you kind of are steering clear of any kind of drama, right? I'm assuming with the Anchor Bay stuff, like the two gentlemen that like kind of sideswiped you.
Well, you know, in anything, it's not just the entertainment business. Even if you work at Costco, you're going to have bitter, jealous fellow employees that are going to try to make your life hell. You know, I mean, it's in any business place. You're going to have it's called competition. You know, everybody wants to be the top dog, and you know, those guys that are on the podcast, they are friends. We try to look out for each other, but constantly we get put in situations where you got to like step back and go, shit, let's say one of those guys has a really good client and that client suddenly one day says, I'm looking for a change, and they call me. Then you're like, oh, man, what do you do? You know? So what we do in those situations is we call each other and say, hey, dude, this is what just happened. What should we do here? I mean, sounds like you're going to lose this person regardless. You know, are you cool with me working with them? Or I'm giving you the heads up that they're shopping you. Maybe you can fix this problem. You know, we try to have each other's backs, you know, but sometimes you get to a point, you know, with a client that you realize that it's not working anymore. Like I had a client just recently who I've been with for since before 2010. I know that. So a long time. And I wasn't getting her much work, but I just recently got her some really good stuff. And her attitude was so shitty and unpleasant to be around, and that I was telling all the people that worked for me, dude, just deal with it. She's done after this show. I'm not going to say who it is. I'm going to create. I'm telling everybody, you know, I'm done with her. All right. At the end of the last show, she pulls me aside to tell me that we're done. so she fired me right before I had the chance to fire her.
Oh, it's like being broken
and I
up
didn't
with.
say it. I just said, you know what? I understand, and best of luck to you. And I wasn't going to be, oh yeah, well I was going to fire you. You know, nothing good can come out. Now, mind you, it was somebody that's so really insignificant. It you know, it's a really low tier person. But I was just like, whatever, man. I'm just glad to be.
It sounds like you took the high road, so that's good.
Yeah,
I did take the high road, and mind you, I wasn't going to pull this person aside and say we're done. I was just going to stop calling them. You know what I mean? So
that's funny. Well, Sean, we just have a few final questions before we wrap up. In a 2018 interview that you did with Halloween Daily News, you said, quote, if it wasn't for the Halloween franchise, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. And obviously, I was very excited to read this because it's my favorite franchise. But my question is, Why, in your opinion, do you think people are so obsessed with this horror franchise in particular? Like to the point that every 5 years there can be a huge convention dedicated. Why do you think it has such a powerful, enduring
Staying power?
Yeah.
You know what? I really don't know. I mean, I know my love for it, and I see the passion of the Halloween fans, and I know the passion of the Halloween fans. They are hands down the most passionate, rabid fan base. Friday 13th doesn't touch it. Elm Street doesn't touch it. I'm talking about in calm down. I'm talking about in fandom.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've seen it. Like, there was a 25th anniversary Friday the 13th convention that had one of the most amazing lineups with people that had never appeared before. It was a flop. People didn't come out.
It was in Hollywood, right?
Yeah, I was there.
You know, as big as a fan as I was scared to go down to Hollywood.
And he's been to more Halloween conventions with me than Friday the 13th.
When was that? It was like 2005, 2006. When was that?
Well, 25th, it would have been 2005.
Okay, it was the 25th.
Yeah, so
2005.
I was still like new to the area, and I was scared to go down to Hollywood and Highland. But it was at Hollywood and Highland, I remember.
Yeah.
And like
it was at an old abandoned bank.
Yes. And like, I know my friends told me Corey Feldman was there, and I think Amy Steele was there. Yeah. Like, it was a big deal.
It was Steve Dash's first show.
I should have gone.
It was the only show that that one actor, the black guy from Part 3 that punches through the window.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yes. One of the motorcycles.
Nick something. It was his only show. I think Fox was there too. She was there too, and she's gone.
Yeah, I did see her at Gelson's.
This feels good.
Yes, I saw her at Gelson.
Yeah. So anyway, I just don't think that those other films can do what we've done with this Halloween convention, to be able to pack a place like the Pasadena Convention Center. Like, for example, I don't know if you heard, there's a Friday 13th convention happening in Burbank, I think, in August of next year.
Ooh, I'll go.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to put some of my people in there probably, but I just don't think it's going to be big. And that's just my gut.
Film since 2009. You guys had this wonderful trilogy.
Hey man, we were doing Halloween conventions when there ain't shit going on.
That's true.
We had to do a Halloween convention on the heels of Resurrection. So come on.
And that's what I was going to say. What the whole question about Jamie Lee Curtis, 2012 was such a empty moment for the Halloween franchise. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 was 2009, and then we got 2018. So there was a period.
To set the record straight.
It was almost 10 years.
Yeah.
What's that?
I love Halloween.
He does. We also heard though that it was your idea to get Nick Castle in the Blumhouse Halloween trilogy. How did that happen?
Well, funny story behind that. So 2018 was in the works. I get a call one day from this guy that says, is Tom there? And I said, who are you looking for? Tom who? And they said, Tom Morga. And I said, no, I'm his manager. Can I help you? And he said, oh yeah, I'm with, I forgot what company. He said, we're in the process of, we're auditioning people for the new Michael Myers for the new film, and we'd like to bring him in for an audition. And I said, you do realize he's at the time 68 or something like that. I don't remember how old he was at that moment, but I said, you realize Tom's 68? And they said, yeah, we want it. This is supposed to be a direct sequel from the first film, so we want it to be age appropriate, and that would be are about right. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I said, that's when I said, well, what are you looking for exactly? And I said, well, I also work with Chris Durand, and I also mentioned Don Shanks. These guys. I said, Chris is a little younger. I said, but he still is in great shape, blah, blah, blah.
And he's worked with Jamie Lee Curtis before.
Yeah. And we're talking, and then he says his name, and I go, wait. I go, who's it? He goes, this Ron Hutchinson. And I go, he was the stunt coordinator on Rob Zombie's films. And I know him, and I'd had him at the convention before. I go, Ron, it's Sean Clark. And he goes, "Oh shit, dude, how are you doing?" So we start talking. And I said, "Yeah, man, let me talk to these guys." Like, he wanted to bring Chris in also. And I said, "Let me talk to them and I'll get back to you." And so I called them and, told them. And then I started thinking to myself, and I said, "Well, the age appropriate." And I said, "Why don't they ask Nick?" So, I called Nick and I said, "Hey," I told him what happened. I said, "Would you ever even consider playing Michael Myers again?" He goes, "Yeah, sure." Like that. I go, he goes, "Put it out there, see what happens." So instead of calling Ron back, I texted Jamie, right? And I said, "Hey, crazy thing just happened. This guy just called me asking Tom Morgan, blah, 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 because they want an age-appropriate Michael Myers." And I thought to myself, why not Nick Castle? And I asked him, and he said he would do it.
And you say Jamie as in Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes. Yeah. And she responds, let me get this to the proper people. And within 10 minutes, somebody from Blumhouse called me. And then they ended up setting up a Zoom call between David Gordon Green and Nick. And originally Nick was going to be the guy. And then Nick kind of started to get cold feet. Then Nick was kind of like, "I don't think I want to be on a movie set for a month in this costume." And then it turned into, "I think I'm just going to do a cameo." And so that ended up becoming like a tradition of him doing a cameo in all three films.
Yeah. I mean, it's still great for fans. Like, I can understand how he mentioned, like, he just wouldn't have been able to do the stunt work that James Jude Courtney did, or those really intense fight scenes. But it's cool that you get the little Easter egg of him, especially Halloween fans of the original absolutely love it. So that's just such a cool
crazy
story.
thing. Yeah, and what a crazy thing for just the Halloween fan. I literally changed history, like with an idea. I was like, "Hey,
Well, it is funny. It's like, hey, we want someone age appropriate, someone that may have, been young in the first one and now is a little older. How about the guy who played Michael Myers?
Yeah, that's
when we were talking to Nick Castle, he was such an easygoing guy, and you're such an easygoing guy. Like, that's awesome.
And I can imagine that Jamie Lee Curtis returning would obviously know, oh my God, that is a perfect tie-in, to
And then Blumhouse, they jumped all over it and used it as a PR thing, which ultimately kind of pissed off James Jude Courtney, because everybody was saying Nick Castle is Michael, and James is like,
hello.
I remember, Sean, when the articles first came out that he was returning, it was very confusing, because at first I thought he was literally splitting the role. And then finally they mentioned, oh, it's a cameo. And I was like, okay, it's a tiny scene. But yeah, at the beginning they were acting like he was going to be Michael Myers.
It's Friday 13th Part 2 all over again. And not that you have much free time, but what's on the horizon for you? Like, what new projects do you have going?
Well, like I said, tomorrow going to Salt Lake City, going to shoot the rest of the Halloween 4, 5, and 6 stuff, which there's quite a bit. I was like looking at going, damn, I missed quite a bit, especially from Part 6. I missed several spots. And then I'd also, let's see, God, it's been like 2 years now, maybe 2 years ago, I shot an episode of Hereditary, Horror's Hall Grounds. And there was one location I wasn't happy with the footage. So I'm going to go back, because that's in Salt Lake City also. I'm going to reshoot that. And I also realized that one of the classrooms was wrong. Once I got home and I started editing it, I was like, this is not correct. And I'm hoping that the lady that let me in last time is still working there. They were super accommodating. Now, mind you, I hooked her up with passes to the convention and introduced her to Skeet Ulrich, who she had a mad crush on, but that's a whole nother story. You do whatever you have to do to get these things done. Yeah. So I'm going to be doing those this weekend. I got to edit all that. We shot a new we shot a new Thing with Two Heads episode like a week ago.
Oh, cool.
I need to get that edited. I'm supposed to have that up. Oh, shoot. Now I'm looking at the dates. Maybe I can get it done while I do a lot of editing on the road, like on airplanes and in the hotel room. Because I can get away from work. When I'm here at home, I feel like I'm just constantly, I have to work on convention stuff and all that. Other than that, I have some other collection videos that are shot that need to be edited. I have many other Horrors Hollow Grounds episodes that are shot that need to be edited. I mean, that Slaughter High one I sat on for almost 2 years. And the reason I sat on that one was because I had hopes I was going to get in that school. I had a buddy of mine who you don't really see in the video, but you hear him off camera. He's from London. He contacted the school, talked to somebody there, and it was looking really good. And then it just died. I think once they saw the movie, because they'd never seen it, because he mailed them a copy, like we need to see this. And he sent it to them, and then they watched that movie and said, nope. So I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to put it out. I'm probably never getting in there. But I was like, if I got permission to go in there, I'd fly back to England and do it. Obviously not on a solo trip. I'd figure other things to do. But Exorcist 3 is done. It's like, that one's probably going to be the next episode to drop. What other ones are? Oh, Phantasm is almost finished.
Oh, the house from Burnt Offerings, right?
Yeah. So funny thing is, I went there to do Phantasm, and I thought, well, I should do Burnt Offerings while I'm here, you know? Yeah. So I shot those the same day, at least at that location. So I've been sitting on a lot of this Phantasm footage for a while, because I'll tell you what, man, I had a talk with Don Coscarelli the last convention. I'm like, dude, what were you thinking when you... this is the most spread out locations of any movie I've ever really worked on. I mean, places he chose makes no sense. Like, there's that one scene where the tall man's walking down the street and walks by the outside of Reggie's ice cream shop and stops and feels the cold. It's a random street in the mountains near San Diego. It's in a little town called Julian. I said, why the hell did you could have shot that anywhere? And he was just like, oh, well, you know, he really didn't have a good explanation. But I was just like, dude, it took me so long just to go all these places. And there's so many locations in that movie. It's been a beast of an episode. Christine is one I've been working on. Let's see, what other ones? I know there's a few more. I'm working on a Monster Shining episode. My Shining episode is going to cover the book, the movie, and the miniseries. And so it's going to be all...
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be all encompassing, because there's so much misinformation about what was shot where, what's a real place, what isn't. I want to put kind of all that to rest. I was really kind of bummed when I'm sure you saw that recent thing that just came out where they went to the studio and some of the interiors are still there. Have you seen this? No. It just came out. It's on YouTube, and I knew about it. That's the thing. I've been trying to get in Elstree Studios for this very reason, because I knew that some of those locations that were in the hotel were real places in the studio. Like one of them, the whole kitchen is office space now, but you can match everything out. Even the room where she locks him in the freezer or the cupboard thing, whatever, it's still there.
That's someone's office.
Wow. He said that's someone's office now.
That isn't. It's just a storage thing, and it still has the same shelving. It's exactly the same. Wow. Anyway, it just came out on YouTube, but it's only just this little bit, right, where they take some of the crew back and talk about it. And I was like, God damn it. Because I wanted to be I knew about it, and the reason I knew about it is there's this Japanese reporter that right after the movie went there and interviewed some people there and talked about how it was, you know, they were still using it for office space or something. Anyway, but I still want to do the whole thing, going to all the locations, the Stanley Hotel where they wrote the book and where they shot the miniseries, the Timberline Lodge, which was the exterior only for the aerial shots, the Anawani, which was the inspiration of the look of the inside of the Overlook. I've already shot most of it. Wow. So it's going to be a beast of an episode too.
I can't wait.
I know that it sounds like your plate is pretty full. Then you have a ton going on. Yeah. We have just one final question for you, Sean, and we ask this to everyone we interview. It's going to be a little different for you because usually when we talk to someone from a movie, it's they think about that specific project, but this is our final question. What is one thing that you can tell us about your experience, either, I guess, booking talent for conventions, filming a video for Horror's Hallowed Grounds, or recording the thing with two heads, that you've never told any other interviewer, podcaster, convention Q&A, or publication? Just one thing about your experience on any of your many jobs that you've never told before.
God, I have no idea.
Well, you kind of gave us a really good one about the actress that you were going to fire.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
That's new. Yeah. That just happened. So,
fresh.
There's crazy stuff that happens all the time, man. And I know I'm gonna think of one as soon as we stop talking. I'm like, oh shit, I should have told him that.
Was there someone that like fainted in front of Michael Myers?
I've
like
seen,
someone was so scared or something at a convention.
I've seen a lot of people faint just out of like starstruck. Yeah. You know,
I love that.
There was one that was, I hate to, you know, I'm one of those guys that likes watching those videos of people that, you know, get hurt. You know,
Scott on Tape always posts those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was this one time we were at a convention. I don't remember where it was, but I was with Norman Reedus, and this was like during the height of Walking Dead fandom. This girl walks up to the table, looks at him, and literally just takes a header face first into the table. Like she just like, I mean, she literally just goes bonk and like to the floor. And even though it was startling and you're obviously worried for her, it was hilarious at the same time. You know what I mean? It was like, oh shit. You know, 'cause it's one of those, you would watch that video over and over again if somebody had filmed it. You know what I mean?
Have you ever had people show up to see the celebrities and like do something that legitimately like creeps them out? Like say something really uncomfortable or like anything? I'm just trying to think because I'm sure there has to be some really creepy.
Yeah, I mean, like, can you sign this machete or something? I mean, that's
not creepy. That's part of the horror.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, we haven't had too many incidents, but, you know, I mean, there's been times where somebody who creeped out a female client, you know, and they'll say, I remember one time we were at Monster Mania in New Jersey, and Daniel Harris said to me, hey, see that guy over there? He's been literally standing there staring at me for like 2 hours. And I'm over it. You know, it's creepy. And so we had him removed, you know. But nothing, you know, people say inappropriate things all the time. Most people don't know how to speak to celebrities. Like they get nervous and they say awkward things. There's a lot of awkward people that come to conventions. I mean, it's, you know, I got in trouble for saying this on another podcast, but it is the truth, and I stand by it. There's a lot of people on the spectrum that go to these conventions. And it's not me putting them down. I'm just saying that they don't all know how to talk to people. They don't know the appropriate things to say sometimes. You know, like when you come up to a celebrity and you say, wow, where have you been? Do you not work and do you not do movies anymore? And you're like, oh, you know, and then it's, especially when it's somebody who is still working, they're just maybe not as famous. You know what I mean? I did a movie last week.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, stuff like that, you know, so a lot of times you hear these really awkward questions being asked, and and
it's cringy.
It's cringy to us, but I think the celebrities and we always try to be as nice to that person, because you can realize if the person is being shitty or if they really just don't know better.
Yeah.
So you just try to be nice, and just go on with it. But I just want to put this out there, because like I said, I got some blowback from saying the thing about people on the spectrum. It's the truth. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing at all. It's just, we get it a lot at conventions, and they'll even come up to us and tell us about their issues, and I've actually become friends with quite a few of them. But yeah, I mean, like, you can always, there was this one guy named Jonathan who he's passed away, since. He's actually in the Night She Came Home documentary. If you watch the documentary, there was a part where, and I knew Jonathan and I knew how he was, and he came up and he started saying to Jamie, like, I want you to write this. And I'm like, Jonathan, I'm like, dude, she's not going to do it. And Jamie's like, no, that's Sean. And she did it she could tell, immediately. And she's like, no, I'm going to take care of this guy. I'm going to write out what he wants. And anyway, he was one of those guys that, he definitely was autistic and sweet guy, but he would just blurt shit out. And I remember one incident clearly. Nick Castle had never done a convention. He shows up at 30 Years of Terror just to see Tommy Lee Wallace. It was me and Tommy's plan to try to get him there, show him what it was about, maybe convince him to sign. So Nick shows up thinking nobody's going to recognize him. I'm the guy, nobody's going to know who it. Immediately, everybody's like, Nick Castle's Nick Castle is here. He'd never done a convention. Jonathan walks up to him and he's like, Mr. Castle, will you sign this for me? And he's like, no, I'm not signing. Can I get a photo with you? No, I'm just here. I'm only here. I'm seeing what, and then Jonathan goes, well, can I ask you a question? What the hell are you doing here then? It's so funny.
I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, that's so funny.
I mean, it was hilarious, but he didn't really think about what he was saying. He's just like, well, what the hell are you doing here then? It was very,
it's so every day.
Yeah. Well, but I think it's, and we've gone to some of these conventions, and I think a lot of even the awkwardness comes from like how much love we have for these people and what they do and the movies that have shaped our lives. So it's like, it's so easy to put these people up on a pedestal and to forget they're just other human beings too, that were in a movie that meant something to us.
I'm always scared. I'm such a chicken. I really am.
It'd be like that Chris Farley character. Remember that time when you were in the Beatles?
Yes,
that was awesome. You get that a lot. I mean, it's funny to watch happen.
I love the girl face planning next to Norman Reed. It's like, how do you even recover from that? Like,
you don't.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that you see it happen, you're just like.
It's in your memory.
I love watching uncomfortable moments, like when I can tell that the celebrity is super uncomfortable, and not the female clients. I'm talking about like Matthew Lillard. Like, I can see something happening that he's like, oh my God, I know inside he's dying inside right now, and I'll make eye contact with him, and I'll just be like.
Like, have fun with that.
Stu, are you coming back to Scream? I can't even imagine how many people probably ask him that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, a lot worse than that. Just think like it could be a visual scenario where you're just like, oh God, this is going to be like, you see like a person come up that might be very sweaty or, and you're just like, and you, yeah. It's like, oh,
thanks for the hug.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, look, Sean, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. Like, as horror fans, as podcasters, like, you have such an incredible career that I think most people are jealous of. Just the fact that like you do so much and have turned your love for this into a career, and you still get to like kind of do all the things that all of us people who love these movies would enjoy doing anyway, you know? So we're huge admirers of you, and we're really grateful that you took the time to chat with us. So thank you.
No,
Yes,
my
that was
pleasure.
fun.
I appreciate the fact that anybody cares. You know, I mean, it's I'm so grateful. You know, just that again, that people care, are interested, and yes, I feel very fortunate and grateful that I've been able to. Believe me, I sit back all the time and just think to myself, wow, look at what I get to do. When I could be, getting at the phone, the alarm could be going off at 7 a.m. and I got to go put on a suit and go to a desk somewhere, which I used to do. When I walked away, I think I walked away from my job February of 2006, and I've never looked back. And it's crazy. I mean, I'm very grateful and keep wondering how much longer it's going to last, but so far so good.
Oh, I have a feeling it's going to last a long time because I'm going
to be 54 on Monday, so
happy birthday!
Oh yeah, happy birthday! Well,
ticking.
First off, 54 is nothing. I mean, they were. I mean, how old was James Jude Courtney doing those stunts in all the Halloween movies?
60 something. Yeah.
Jesus, nobody can do what he could do. I mean,
today I was huffing and puffing walking up a hill. So
exactly.
Think he drinks baby's blood, but that's just we've heard about those people in Hollywood. They're drinking the blood of the babies. They're drinking it quite bigly. Anyway,
well, thank you so much. We'll definitely be in touch, and we really appreciate your time, and we wish you nothing but the best with all of your endeavors. Can't wait to see more videos and just see you around.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Take care. Have a good night.
All right. You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Happy Horror Time.
If you'd like to support the podcast, please sign up to be a patron at www.patreon.com/happyhorrortime. As a patron, you get access to all our bonus content, which now includes 2 new bonus episodes every month, a monthly after show mini episode, access to our Discord community so you can chat with us directly, and the chance to review a film with us in one of our bonus episodes.
Patrons also get all our regular episodes ad-free and a day early, our monthly newsletter, the chance to vote in polls, and autographed Happy Horror Time stickers.
I'm Matt Emmert.
And I'm Tim Murdoch.
And we hope you have a happy horror time.